Black Sea Bass Management Board to order. My name is Bob Ballou. I have the honor of serving as board chair. We have a brief agenda for this meeting, and we plan to move through it quickly. Item 1, or actually, is what I just did, which is welcome and call to order. Item 2 is board consent of the agenda. Is there any recommended modifications to the agenda? Seeing none, is there any objection to approving the agenda as proposed? Seeing none, the agenda as proposed stands approved by consent, and we're on to item 3, which is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the board on any issue that is not on the agenda? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to item 4, which is to consider the ISFMP Policy Board recommendation regarding Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York Addendum 30 appeal, if necessary, and it is necessary. So this would be a final action. We have a motion that will be offered by, I believe, Pat Kelleher on behalf of the Policy Board. So at this point, I would offer the floor to Mr. Kelleher for that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Policy Board, stemming from the resolution of the appeal, it's a vote. I feel like I'm at the legislature. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Policy Board, stemming from the resolution of the appeal to Addendum 30 submitted by the states of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York, I move to number 1, approve the 2018 recreational black sea bass regulations and make the necessary changes to Addendum 30 consistent with these regulations. And 2, develop a new action for the 2019 recreational fishery to address the changes in black sea bass abundance and distribution that consider management based on the distribution of the resources along with any other options recommended by the Management Board. And 3, task the plan development team to develop a white paper that would identify the actions of considering the changes in black sea bass abundance for future commercial and recreational management actions.
Thank you. This does not need a second because it's comes from the Policy Board, and so it is now before the Summer Flounder, Scup, and Black Sea Bass Board for discussion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Adam Nowalski.
So just from a time frame and procedural perspective of what we would need to do today, I would hope that some of the actions already taken by the Management Board earlier this week, indicating that there's already a desire by this board to pursue that revised recreational management. And I would think that the discussions with the PDT would not require us initiate specific actions today, but that they would be ongoing and we'd report back presumably at the summer meeting.
Thank you. That does seem consistent with the intent of the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Is the board ready for the question? If so, is there any need to caucus? Seeing no need, I will call a question. I don't want to rush this too fast, but I don't see any indication to the contrary, so I will call the question. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. I'm sorry. I'm going to rescind what I just said, and because this is a final action, it either needs a roll call, it would need a roll call vote unless there is no objection. Is there any objection to the motion? There's, I'm sorry, Mr. Bat-Savage.
No objection, Mr. Chairman, but we're going to no on this one as well.
Thank you. That's fine. So is there any other comments or objection? I'm sorry, Mike Ruccio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We wouldn't object to the motion. We would likely abstain, and I know that one of the concerns that people had raised during the Policy Board is what the service will do in terms of the backstop provisions. It's our understanding that we're going to get a letter from the Commission that kind of outlines that this action has been taken and that the measures that states will be implementing are consistent and are designed to achieve the RHL. I think we're wholly supportive of that, but to not kind of bias our decision-making process, we'll abstain, I think, at this point.
Mike Louisi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were all in the room a half an hour ago when we saw what's being referenced here regarding the point under number 1, approve the 2018 recreational black sea bass regulations. But I just wonder, for the purpose of transparency and making sure that we're complete in our discussion here, that we either put that table that we're all referencing in this motion just up on the screen for a moment, so that if anyone was not in the room when the policy board discussed this, that they can at least get a visual about what is being suggested as the agreement and the compromise that we discussed just a little while ago. Thank you.
Excellent point. That is now up on that visual is now up on the board, and it is embedded, if you will, within the motion that these are the regulations that this board is now approving. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Fish and Wildlife Service also would abstain on the vote.
So at this point, there is no objection. There are 2 abstentions and 1 null vote, as I understand it. Is that an accurate reflection of the board's vote on this issue? No objection, 2 abstentions from the NOAA Fisheries and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, 1 null vote from the state of North Carolina. So therefore, the motion carries, and we are on to other business. Is there any other business to be brought before this board? Seeing no hands, is there any objection to adjourning? Seeing no hands, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
So the South Atlantic Board is going to start about a half an hour early. It was scheduled for 11:45. We'll start at about 11:15. So in about 15 minutes, we'll start South Atlantic Board.